The biggest compliments that my team and I myself can get is, when investors approach us and say, look, how do you guys do it? How do you always keep on top of the latest things? You see things before we see them.
That's Remco Jansen, founder and publisher of Silicon Canals, a leading technology media source for the startup ecosystem here in Europe. They provide VCs, innovation managers, and people in the tech community with invaluable information and news pertaining to startups in Europe. In this episode, you'll learn how Remco grew a blog that was written in Dutch into what Silicon Canals is today, why he believes a strong startup ecosystem is necessary to safeguard democracy, and what he learned as a startup mentor and journalist over the years. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode as you listen. Feel free to hit the subscribe button, and you can find me on LinkedIn at Eric Melcher. Tag me, say hello, let me know that you're listening. And now let's talk to Remco.
I started out my career as a journalist in Amsterdam for Amsterdam FM, and later on as a freelancer for Parool, which was one of the resistance newspapers in the Second World War. So I have my DNA in Amsterdam, and once I was riding my bicycle, at the moment I was riding, so this was 2014, I was riding my bicycle and I was a PR for startups in the city. And I was going from one startup to the other on the canals. I thought, look, this is amazing, all these innovative companies on the canals. These are the Silicon Canals, right? So it was like a eureka moment. And from that point on, I registered the domain name, I registered the Facebook to Twitter. And, over the course of the summer of 2014, we started blogging, very impromptu, just on and about. We launched a small WordPress website. We started blogging in Dutch, actually, about the Amsterdam scene. And then that very same week, the Dutch government launched an initiative called Startup Delta, which was there to boost the nation's ecosystem. So we were dead on, we were at the spot where that was all happening. And I didn't give it much thought in the beginning. It was just, on the side, side hustle. And it sort of grew on us. We started blogging or writing in English in 2016 when Startup Fest came to town with Tim Cook and Travis Kalanick from Uber. And, we thought it would be smart to do it in English so we have a bigger audience. And in 2018, we even switched to, Benelux, and then gradually focusing on the whole of Europe. And now I'm a pan-European publisher, and like always with every good idea, it just grew organically and came to life and to fruition naturally, I would say.
Okay. Now you said that it was a side gig, but were there any sort of aspirations or even expectations for launching Silicon Canals?
I am a journalist by education, but also even before I started the education, I wanted to be a journalist. So I think for me, it has always been very important to boost that ecosystem. And then, from that DNA that I have, that I hold, and with the city of Amsterdam and as a European citizen, I always wanted to propel that ecosystem. When I saw that grow, I wanted to nurture that. And I think that's always been our mission and vision. And yeah, we kind of stuck to that. So, like all good things, I think once you see something that is really, get stuck in your heart, you have the passion to really make that grow, even though it was a side hustle. But now it is 100% my only business at the moment. And yeah, I'm really thankful and grateful that we have great partners like the city of Amsterdam actually now that support us throughout that journey.
Great. Okay. When I visited Silicon Canals homepage, my head, it went to what a lot of people think. How are they able to release so many articles each day? So can you describe what a publishing team looks like for folks like myself who don't really have an understanding of what it takes to run a media company?
Yes. Well, we have a smaller team than you might envision, but a really great and awesome team. So at a certain point, I met an Indian woman in Amsterdam who was a managing editor before of a large publication in India. She built a team out of India for us. And at the moment she left, when she moved to London, one of our freelance writers who used to be an editor-in-chief of another publication, a startup publication in India, we appointed him editor-in-chief. And now, since then, we've grown the team to 3 freelance writers, the editor-in-chief, of course. We have a publisher who takes care of our content partnerships. We have a community manager and, on and off, we have several other people that support and help us grow the publication. But it is quite a small team, but they're very diligent. And I can say I'm extremely proud of them. I mean, let's just say, look at the weekend that we just had. We're in the week that Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. Throughout the weekend, they put up great stories. They were up and about, and a large publication, of course, they can send 5, 6 reporters out there. We only have our small team. My editor-in-chief, he was on top of that. We released some great stories from our vision and our angle, what's happening in Europe. What does this mean for Europe? And yeah, it's just, it is quite fun to see how much you can do with such a small team if everybody puts up a lot of effort in. And I can just say I'm extremely proud of them.
Okay. Now, how do you determine which articles get written? Is it entirely up to the editor-in-chief, or do you have some say?
Of course, I have some say as the owner and the founder. But one thing that I found straight away was that we shared the same vision and we have a very clear editorial format. So we know what is, if I would call him and say, hey, this is a great story, you would agree with me. And if you would call me and say, this is a great story, I would agree with him at least 95% of the time. So if you have a very clear format and a very clear editorial scope, then the work, it is not easy. Running a publication is not easy, but at least that makes it easier for everybody to understand where you're at, what needs to be covered, what we're going to do. And for us, sometimes a 500K round, a seed round in a very innovative company that is, transitioning something, let's say they're helping with poverty or hunger or climate change, is more interesting than us than maybe a 20 million euro round in yet another SaaS, software as a service company. So for us, that is always, it's not as much about, the big numbers flying around or, the cool hip companies, but it's also about discovering, the smaller startups that are doing great work. Sometimes the smaller ecosystems. I know you're in a smaller ecosystem yourself in Europe, maybe in the Baltics or Eastern Europe or in Portugal or Greece. Cool stuff is happening that also needs to see the light of day. And for us, our editorial format suits that quite well. We can publish straight away about them. And yeah, we can give them the attention that they deserve.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what kind of reach do you guys have, and how are you guys getting traction in terms of reach and audience size?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a very good question. So we have, I would say, on average, around 100,000 users a month, resulting in 150,000 page views. As I said, we're a small publication relatively, but we focus on what I call a micro niche. So we really focus on the startup and the scale-up ecosystem. So we don't cover, per se, Apple or Facebook or Microsoft unless it is something related to the European tech ecosystem. That means that there's a smaller, but it's a very influential audience. So these are investors, these are founders, these are people who are working at startups or want to work at startups, want to see where they can work,
Yeah.
It's, I think at the moment, still one of the only job markets that is growing despite all the layoffs. And I'm quite confident that, the tech ecosystem will bounce back after, a big peak and increase there. So what we do in order to get actually some tractions, we just broke, for me, a magic threshold of 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. So that would be, I would say, our strongest social media presence. Of course, we're on Twitter. Facebook for small publishers is dead, I'm afraid. Instagram is still a growing channel, but it's relatively small. But we're integrated in Google News. We have a lot of organic traffic, but we also have a lot of direct traffic. We have a lot of people that follow us, especially investors, daily. Hey, let's see what's going on. And, the biggest compliments that my team and I myself can get is, when investors approach us and say, look, how do you guys do it? How do you always keep on top of the latest things? You see things before we see them. And that's the reason why they keep tabs of us. There was even an AI investor who said, oh, what kind of software are you using? Did you build a scraper? Do you have chatbot doing that for you? Chat GPT, is that something that you're using? No, this is the people doing that. And they have an excellent eye for what needs to be covered and what not, what is, right in the moment of time that needs to get coverage. So yeah, I think that's where we really excel as a media publication.
Okay. Now, for many years, you were a startup mentor in Amsterdam. Is there anything in the process of being a mentor that you now bring into your role as the CEO of your news media company?
Well, most importantly, I would say that I really thoroughly understand how startups work and what is going on. And there are a lot of frauds and fakers in this world. People who are more living the lifestyle than building an actual company. And I think I have a keen eye now on what real entrepreneurs are like and also investors. So, I can spot them from a mile away. On the other end, as a startup mentor, what I've learned that there is only one thing important, and that's as a business owner, and that is sales. So, it's all fun and games, running a media publication, but that costs more money. Even if you have that run from India, it costs money, real serious money. And in order to do that, we need to have strong partners, and we need to retain those partners for a longer period of time. And if you do sales properly, you give your partners something in return, and we give them a lot of exposure. We know how to work with municipalities like the city of Amsterdam, governments, like I mentioned Startup Delta earlier, they're now called TechLead. Were one of our strongest partners last year, but also big tech companies like AWS and Salesforce has been on our roster. So we know how to service them with great content that actually turn into leads or it's not always directly leads, visibility, branding, or, supporting the ecosystem. That's sometimes for governments a very important thing. So yeah, for us, for this year, it's going to be, I think our scope to be focused on building more and better media partnership with clients that we have, the partners that we have, but also with new ones. So yeah, we're definitely expanding, I would say.
All right. Can we talk a little bit about why you're so passionate about the startup ecosystem here in Europe? It seems like your entire career has been working in or around startups in some capacity as a mentor, as a founder, as a publisher. So I'd love to hear, what is it about innovation that inspires you?
Oh yeah, that's, I always have a big sigh of relief when somebody asks me that question. First of all, I admire the founders who put in the nitty gritty every day. I have seen so many founders fail miserably, and it is heartbreaking to see. And, they're putting their life on the line, right? They're putting in their last savings. We had a story recently of somebody, she sold her house because she wanted to go all in into her startup. The investor community is still not as, I would say, mature as it is in Silicon Valley or the US. So getting funding, especially if you're a woman or a person of color or another diverse background, is extremely hard, and the numbers are tremendously skewed. So, for us, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a very hot topic. And, all that combined is always, what gets me up in the morning, right? And seeing these founders putting in the work, trying to build a company, creating jobs, creating innovation that can change the world. I mean, some of them are, building companies and making themselves and investors, but a lot of them are very driven to make this world a better place. And that's where Silicon Canals exists. And furthermore, also, democracy is a hot topic. I mean, you come from a country where I would say democracy is under scrutiny, let's say. Well, let's not get too political, but here in Europe as well, right? I mean, certain markets are definitely in a deplorable state. We have a war on our Eastern Front. Again, after many, many years. And I think democracy is something that needs to be preserved. And I think technology and a strong economical ecosystem of tech entrepreneurs can help with that. So there's more at play here than you would see on the surface. It's not about this company, raising a 500K seed round. No, this is about a stable and a thriving Europe and a thriving democracy as well. So for us, it's more than just what you see if you look at the website as a tech blog, right? There's more at play here.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying, Remco. The point that you made that it's the tech entrepreneurs or just entrepreneurs in general are the ones that create the jobs, they create the innovation, and they're the ones that move things forward, that make the world a better place. And so I hope everyone that's listening just really understands that, because I think Remco is coming from a place where he understands that, he believes it, and he's really trying to share these entrepreneurs' story and what it is that they're doing and bring it to a much wider audience. Okay, so Remco, we've come to the last part where I've got some fun rapid questions for you. Just say the first thing that is on your mind. You ready?
I'm ready. I was born ready.
All right, let's do it. $25,000 cash or dinner with Guy Kawasaki? Which do you prefer?
I would have dinner with Guy Kawasaki because I saw him talk at the Next Web once, and I believe that his values are not my values. So a lot of things that he are saying are built from nepotism and from a country. I mean, he's from a certain culture, the US tech ecosystem. And I think he needs to look at, what he's really about, and that there are things that can be more democratic, more, thinking about poverty, inclusion and stuff like that. And it's not always about nepotism. So yeah, I would love to have a dinner with him and, get into a heated argument with him.
Okay. All right. Number one strategy to prioritize your time.
I mean, that's very simple. I would look at my bank account and I would look at my sales reports. And as any entrepreneur, any founder, money talks. So look at your balance sheet, look at how much money is coming in, project your cash flow. As an entrepreneur, that's the most important.
What is a favorite TV show that you can watch again and again?
Ooh, there are plenty. At the moment, I'm actually rewatching The Wire. I don't know if you remember about the Baltimore police, Jimmy McNulty, who is...
Shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many cool lines from that show. And I would say my favorite character is Omar, who is a robber who robs drug dealers. It is probably the first drug dealer robber stick-up artist that is gay on any show. I think that's amazing. And he's just, unfortunately, he passed away, I think a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And he really brought that show to life with his humor, with his flair. He's just there's so many amazing actors, but he is my favorite for sure.
Yeah. He was a great character. I love that show. Great show. What's the most interesting thing you've done in the past 26 days, Remco?
The most interesting thing. Can you narrow that down a little bit?
Well, I mean, it's obviously not something that you do on a daily basis. Maybe it was a trip somewhere. Maybe it was an exotic dinner or a night out.
Well, an exotic dinner for sure. That's something I can tell about. One of our partners took me and my partner out for dinner to Rijks. If you're ever in the Netherlands, go there. So it is a Michelin star restaurant next to the Rijksmuseum. Okay. And they had some, I wish I would have, I mean, I'm not a vegetarian, but I wish I would have taken the vegetarian menu. And, the chef really was an artist. It was just like flavors happening and cool things. I can't even describe it. And it was definitely a treat. And it was so great to see that one of our partners, took the time to take us out for dinner. And we even got to discuss some business over an amazing. That was certainly one of the high points in this year this far.
All right. Speaking of dinner, what is an unusual food or drink that you consume? Unusual food or drink, Remco?
So I'm from the Netherlands. So if you ever come to the Netherlands, let's call this Dutch sushi. We love herring. So this herring is not fried. It is brined. So it's very salty. And every year around June, we get the fresh herring. We call it Hollandse nieuwe. So Dutch new ones. And you would eat them by the tail. You dip them in chopped onions, raw chopped onions. You eat them by the tail and you swallow them down. And it is the best. And every year I was member of fraternity here in the Netherlands. We organize a herring party. And that's always, if you would have asked me somewhere in July, then I would definitely have said one of my high points would be the herring party. Last year we did it on the boat on the Amsterdam Canals, very much, the canals are my happy place. So yeah, if you ever get the chance to eat a raw herring, go for it. But it's not to everybody's taste, I would say.
I'm going to be there in early July. So it seems like that's the perfect time.
I will take you all for a spin and force feed you some herring, and let's see if you survive that one.
Okay. Every Friday, here's another one for you. Every Friday, your team does blank to build camaraderie in the workplace. Fill in the blank.
Well, the sad part is that we're a very remote team. So most people are, the Indian team even is sometimes 2 hours apart, or some are in Mumbai and some are in Delhi. So I think that's actually a fair point. We should do something to build some more camaraderie in the team. Last chance we had was over Christmas, where we, sent some. I'm not wearing a Silicon Canals sweater because I always think that's a little bit too much if you're on a video. But one of our team members, I had a call with him on a Friday, and he showed up with that brand new Silicon Canals branded T-shirt, and I was so happy that he did. And we have a good team, but unfortunately, very remote, and that always comes with a disadvantage. But yeah, it's amazing to see how much you can actually do within a remote team and how much camaraderie you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question for you, Remco. Your next startup will be blank.
Ooh, well, not so much a startup, but I've always dreamed of building a hybrid 360 startup consultancy. So where we help, from the early days on, getting the first funding, getting the first pitch decks in, building the brand, building the team, and helping and mentoring them to grow. Not so much an accelerator or an incubator. It will definitely be more of a consultancy type, and very hybrid. That means, no people employed, but getting the best experts out there, and, being the person not in the spotlight building that company. But, in my years, I've seen so many founders struggle with a lot of things. Also mental health. Let's, we haven't discussed that topic yet, but also helping them on a mental health front. I've been struggling myself as an entrepreneur with that, in the last 10 years, and, got myself out of there. So I know how important it is to have somebody on your side, not necessarily a founder or a teammate, but somebody you can confide into, and that, if say, look, I don't know what to do. Remco, what's up with that? And knows how to solve that, because decision making is key to building any company, and I like to be that, that fanboy on the side cheering and rooting for the entrepreneurs.
I like it. Yeah. All right, Remco, thank you so much. Where can our audience learn more about you?
Yes, thank you so much, Eric, for this great talk, and love to see you in the Netherlands and see. I think we need to make a video of you eating herring, so that will be a blast.
We'll do it. Remco, bedankt voor het komen naar de show.
Graag gedaan. Tot de volgende keer.
I had a great time chatting with Remco. He is enthusiastic about helping raise awareness for startups, regardless of their size and industry. If you want to learn more about Remco, go to SiliconCanals.com. Thank you to Remco for being on the show, and I look forward to seeing you this summer in the Netherlands and going for some herring. If you like this episode, send me a note on LinkedIn and subscribe by clicking on the button below. Cheers.